guys, welcome to the Sound of Sewing. I'm Liesl. Today I'm going to teach you how to make an apron. I'm going to take you step by step, so it shouldn't be too hard. Let's get started. Okay, we're going to start with the ruffle. So in order to do that, we need to have it on the straight stitch. I prefer it to be in the middle. And then we're going to push this button here, and we're going to lengthen the stitch size. Now we're ready to sew. Now this one doesn't really matter if it's straight or not because you're going to be pulling this thread out of the fabric when we're done. So don't stress too much about it. Okay, so once we have that in there, we gotta take this top thread. So there's the bottom thread. Here's your top thread. You wanna pull it really gently and pull the fabric through with your other hand, kind of like you're pulling the thread out. If you want it to be a little easier, you can do 2 of these stitches and pull both of the top threads through. And that will kind of help not break your thread. But since we only have 1 thread, we've got to do it really gently and just move the fabric along. You'll see there that we've got a really nice ruffle. So since this is a really long piece, once we have this side kind of ruffled, then we'll move it over to the other side and find the top string over here and do the same thing. That makes it a little easier to get the whole thing ruffled without having to work with such a long thread on the other side. All right, so I'm gonna finish this and then we'll move on to the next step. All right, now that we have our ruffle done, we're going to line it up along the base of our main fabric. And we just want to adjust it so that it matches the width of your fabric. And just adjust it to where it looks nice. And then we're going to flip it over. And then we're going to pin those so it doesn't move. Now we're going to sew it together. All right, so we want to adjust the stitch length again back to normal. And now we're ready to sew. So for this one, I'm just going to line the fabric up with my presser foot right here. And just take it slow so that you can get it all matched up. have our ruffle stitched on, we're going to, you need to cut off the ends of the thread, which I've already done. And then you're going to pull your thread out, your ruffle thread. So you just pull that just nice and gently so you don't break it. Okay, and then you pull this one right off. All right, now that we have the thread pulled out of the ruffle, we're going to take it back to the sewing machine and we're going to do a zigzag stitch along the edge so that it gives us a nice edge there and it won't fray as bad. All right, so now we're going to switch to the zigzag stitch. All right, so now we have the zigzag stitch, and then you want to go over it and just cut off these little stray threads. And that gives you a nice edge there. Okay, so now we have a nice clean edge here. We're going to flip it over and we're going to iron this down. It's about 1/4 inch right there. Fold it over again and iron that. All right, so now that we're done ironing, just make sure that your ruffle is laying flat like this. And then we're going to put it under the presser foot. I'm going to line it up in between these two metal pieces where this plastic thing is. And I'm just gonna follow this line the entire length of the apron. So we're gonna finish this side. We're gonna do the other side the exact same way, and then we'll move on to the next step. All right, now that we have the edges sewn together, we're going to move on to hemming the ruffle. So we're going to do the same thing as we did on the sides with the iron. We're going to go up 1/4 inch, and then we're going to fold it one more time, just so that all of the raw edges are hidden and there's not going to be any stray strings. All right, so this one we're going to do a little bit differently. Instead of just sewing straight through, we're going to do the back stitch. My back stitch button is right here. You just push it and it goes backwards. And this one's a little bit thicker because it has all those layers of fabric. So you might have to give it a little, push it in a little bit, but be careful because you don't want to sew your finger. And then we'll just go all the way to the end, and then we'll do another back stitch. Now we're going to move on to the pockets. Okay, so I've already started ironing this pocket. So I brought this one in and ironed it, and this one in and ironed it. Then you're gonna do the bottom. And then the top, I like to have it be a little different. So I go in more. And then you'll iron that down. Okay. And then you'll do the same with this one. Make sure they're the same. And now we're going to put them on their apron. Before we put the pockets on the apron, we're going to sew this down first. So we're going to start with the back stitch. And then we'll go forward. And with this one, since I don't have any lines over here to follow, I'm going to follow along the edge of this. And then back stitch. Now we're going to place these and pin them on the apron. Okay, so now we're going to try to place these as evenly as possible. Just kind of put them where you want. I think they look good. And then for me, I always just measure to make sure they're the same on both sides. Do about 3 inches. We're just going to pin them in place. ready to sew. Okay, so we're going to start with the back stitch again, just to the top of the pocket. And then we're just going to sew continuously around the entire thing. Make sure your fabric isn't bunched up under there because it'll make a huge mess and a lot of frustration. Now, I'm going to keep my needle in and just twist it and then release my presser foot again. And see, I'm lined up with that again. So you go as far as you can, leave your needle in, and just twist. Alright, we've finished the body of the apron. Now we're going to move on to the sash. So this comes in 3 pieces. This shorter piece, and then the 2 side pieces. So what we're going to do is we're going to sew these together. Make sure the small piece is in the middle. And then we're going to put right sides together and line them up. We're going to sew this together, and then we're going to do the other side and sew that side together. All right, now that we have 3 pieces sewn together, we're going to fold it in half, right sides together. And then we're going to sew at an angle from the fold down, and then sew all the way to this seam. And you're going to stop. And I'll show you why when we get to that point. And then we're going to do the same thing on this other side. Right sides together, sew at an angle, and then sew all the way to the seam. So I'm going to go do that, and then we'll do the next step. Alright, so we're on the fold right here. So it opens like this, right sides together. We're going to go back a little bit to the end of it. Then we're going to go forward. right, now when you get to the seam, you want to make sure that it's all lying flat. And then you're going to just sew right over that. Make sure it's flat because it can get caught under there. Okay, you're gonna go right up to that seam and do a little back stitch. All right, so now we're gonna cut off the thread. And we're gonna cut right here. All right, now we're going to flip this in right side out. We're gonna do that to both sides. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and then we'll go to the next step. So this opening right here is where this apron is going to fit into. So we're going to do the loose stitch right here so that we can gather it like we did the ruffle. And then we'll put that in here, pin it, and do a top stitch. All right, so we have this gathered and we have this all ironed. And right here, I took this and ironed it in so that we don't have to worry about it not being even. So it's all even right here. It all meets up. So now we just kind of put this in here. And then we pin it as we go along. So I'm gonna finish pinning this and then we'll move on to the sewing machine. Okay, so we're gonna do the back stitch and then we're going to do our top stitch. And this one can be tricky, so you gotta make sure that the top matches up with the bottom. The back is probably not going to look as nice as the front, but that's okay. As long as we get it all in the same stitch, it will be fine. Alright, and then do a back stitch to finish it off. Now that we have the sash all sewed on, it's ready to wear. Way to go, guys, you did it.
Alright guys, let me know if you have any questions in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe for more tutorials. Thanks for watching.